Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Hello, Impactful Parents. Today, I want to talk to you about perfectionism. Perfectionism is this horrible, haunting, glooming weight over a lot of mothers and fathers' heads, especially moms, I think, but definitely dads feel it too. And I have a lot of different angles with perfectionism that I have had to deal with in my life. And I want to talk about those today and hoping that you can learn from them. Because if you're the kind of mom or dad that just feels like they need to be perfect a lot, then this episode is for you, where we're trying so hard to do everything right all of the time. There is no room for error, and that is exhausting. So if you're listening to this right now and you are just exhausted from trying to do everything, from trying to be everything, from trying to work so hard so everything will just work out right, consider that you may actually be a perfectionist and you just don't realize it. Or there's a part of you who's trying to be a perfectionist right now. And this episode is going to be about how I'm dealing with my own perfectionism and the perfectionism in my life and things that I'm dealing with. And I hope that you can relate and learn from it. Let's get started. I never thought of myself as a perfectionist until I was a mom, or until I was definitely a lot older. Until then, I really didn't think that's who I was. But here's a lot of things that I've learned about perfectionism over the years. One, it's really prevalent in people who are extremely intelligent. And it's that in itself, it blew my mind when I learned this, that it's the people who are the smartest that tend to want to do everything absolutely perfect. And can I tell you, that's like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because we can't be perfect. And I do struggle with this quite a bit, where I do strive to be perfect, but I have to be able to give myself grace when I'm not. One thing about perfectionism that I want you to kind of put your mind around is that accompanying perfectionism is this blanket of embarrassment or shame and fear. Yeah, perfectionism, shame, and fear all go hand in hand. And yet we don't ever talk about that. But the things that you want to be absolutely the most perfect with are the things that you are scared about the most. Or at least they are for me, right? So I'm talking from my own experiences. Those are the things that I want to get on damn right. Like, oh man, this is going to be perfect. And it's because I have a fear of failure some way in that portion. Maybe I'm with my parenting. I am trying to be a perfectionist because I'm so scared I'm going to mess my kids up. I am so scared that I'm going to lead them in the wrong direction. I'm so scared that I'm going to tell them the wrong thing or not be there when they need me to. Or there's so many things about parenting that are fearful that I strive so hard to overcompensate all of those fears. But along with the fear, let's talk about the shame. And this one we don't really talk about as much in parenting. That shame, that what will others think? What will others say? That's where shame comes from. It's this outward, what other people might think of it. Because without the other people in the outside world, is there really shame? I suppose you could feel shame internally, but without the outside perspective of what will other people think, I don't know if shame can really exist. So I challenge you to think about the things that you're most fearful with, the most things that you're worried and shameful about, and say, am I striving for perfectionism in these areas? I know I do sometimes, and that's really, really rough. I think that just even acknowledging that perfectionism stands on the shoulders of shame and fear is actually freeing, because then you can figure out what you can do about that. If you can eliminate the fear and you can eliminate some of the shame, and of course you can't eliminate all of it. I mean, it'd be great if you could. I don't know if that's fully possible with some of the things that we're the most fearful and most shameful about. But just knowing about it, and if you can eliminate as much as you can, I think that it helps the perfectionism to calm down, to get lower, to get less. My second child in line of my 4 kids struggles deeply with perfectionism. I don't understand this child's struggle with perfectionism. They need to be perfect. They need to have perfect grades. They need to always excel. And amazingly, they have most of their life. They are pretty naturally talented, which has been great. But I have been struggling with this child to not be perfect. I can't tell you how many times I said, an A is awesome. I'm so proud of you, but it's not what makes you who you are. You can totally get a B and I'm going to be just as proud. It's more about the effort you put in than the end grade at the end. I've struggled with this child with, you don't have to be perfect. But again, the reason why I think it's so hard, even though I can say it over and over and over again to my perfectionistic child, is that perfectionism, it's an internal battle. It's not something coming from the outside. It's actually coming from within. My child has to identify their own fears and their own things that they might be shameful of if they're not absolutely perfect, and work on that internally. Because we can't control the views of people on the outside world. We can't control how other people view us. So let's figure out, how do we eliminate that shame? And again, it's not always just say shame. It could be just fear of loss, fear of not getting what you want, fear. Those 2 things are just so powerful and can take over our lives. I think it's really hard to sit in those really tough feelings and figure out, why is it? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to prevent from happening? And there, if you can answer that, there's where some of the perfectionism comes into play. That need to feel perfect. That need to make sure that nothing bad happens. Wow. And parenting, you're always worried, and you're always trying to hope that nothing bad is going to happen. So then I guess I pose the question, how do we deal with those fears? They're never going to go away. Worrying about your child is always going to be there. So then how do we deal with it? I don't know if I have the answers to any of that, but I did want to come on today and just say, it's something I've been thinking about. And when it comes to perfectionism, one of the things that I've been struggling with lately is this podcast. You know, for those of you who have listened to me for a while and come and listen to the Impactful Parenting podcast on a weekly basis, you know that I am trying to dial down and take a break from this, from all of this, from this business. It's exhausting, and I'm a one-woman show, and I'm frankly burned out. So it's been really hard to combat my perfectionism and allow myself to rest, allow myself to not put out a perfect episode, to do a lot of these podcasts like you're hearing right now, off the fly, off the top of my head, no video editing, all the mistakes in there. But when it comes down to it, when I'm doing the editing process, that takes a lot of my time to take out all the things that maybe I didn't say just perfectly. And that's the part that has burned me out. It's not creating. It's not talking to you. I love this part. It's the editing. It's the social media. It's all of that. That's the part that I want to eliminate. And so as I talk to you today, this is an own test of my own challenge of my own perfectionism. Can I put out content that's not edited, that shows more of the raw Kristina, the raw me? Me is who I am, imperfections and all, the stumbles, the I'm not saying this correctly, my scatterbrain thoughts sometimes when I go from popcorning one idea to the next idea to the next. Even this episode, I didn't even know what I was going to say before I pushed record. I just thought, I'm going to talk about how I'm struggling with this right now. I'm going to tell people how I really believe that shame and fear are the pillars that hold up the perfectionism. And I'm going to tell people that this is something that I'm struggling with, that I never knew that I was going to struggle with in my life. Never realized that I had a problem with it. But as I try to figure out where I'm going with this podcast and my business, and I got to figure out how to let go of the perfectionism if I'm not going to burn out. And I think that by telling you this, there'll be people out here that will empathize. I think there'll be people who will relate, that you in your own lives can figure out where you too are also striving for perfectionism, just because there's the underlying fears and shames underneath it. I know nearly every parent struggles with this. Nearly every single one of us. We're all trying to do our best. And in that effort of trying to do your best and not screw up your kids and make sure that they're okay, there's a struggle with perfectionism there that I think a lot of parents deal with. Not to mention our work and our relationships and all the other things in life. So although this is a short episode today, I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to tell the audience, hey, I'm still here. I'm still making content and I'm still trying to figure it all out. And I'm here and I'm struggling with you. And I think that, or I hope that, as people hear this, you guys can relate. And maybe this will help somebody's day to start breaking down, what are we scared of? What are we shameful of? And we can overcome it and become better parents. Because there's no way we can be a perfect parent. Absolutely none. I'm a parenting coach. I have 4 amazing kids. I have taught every single grade. And I know a lot about being around kids and handling it. And there is no way I'm even near perfect. No way. Not even close. And I make mistakes all the time in my parenting, and I have to apologize to my kids, or I'll react out of something and say something that I don't mean, or say something wrong, or tell them too much, or tell them too little, or lead them in the wrong way. And this is what I do for a living. And I'm fucking it up all the time. So you should know that. We're all just doing our best, trying to be the perfect parent, but giving ourselves grace when there's no way we can reach that goal. So do your best, parents. Go out there and give your kids a big hug and kiss. Tell them that you're just trying your hardest. And guess what? I think they're going to understand too. Your kids love you. And I think sometimes they forget that we're human. And that's our responsibility. You know that? When we're too perfect and we don't show that we make mistakes all the time, or we don't admit those mistakes, that's even worse. That just reminds our kids that, hey, my mom shouldn't make mistakes. That's crap. Remind your child that you're human. Remind them that you're just trying your hardest. And most importantly, don't forget to tell them that you're sorry when you do make those mistakes. Process with them. Show them. Say, hey, I fucked up yesterday and maybe I yelled at you without thinking and I shouldn't have done that. And man, I'm really sorry. That's something I shouldn't have done. I should have put myself in a little time out there to calm down. I should have done this instead. When you can tell your kids that, not only are you teaching them, you are role modeling such amazing things. And I know that's hard for parents to admit that they're less than perfect to their children, but do it. It will bring you so much closer to them. I do that a lot. And my kids, wow, they give me grace when I can't give grace to myself. And I'm so extremely grateful for that. But it's because I am very human to them. And they know. And I know that they're human. We all do it. Anyway, episode's too long. Just wanted to come in and say hello. And I hope that you guys can relate. Love you all. See you next week. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.